ready to
Yeah.
tape, ready to tape a couple new
Nice.
episodes of Money with Friends. So welcome back. This is your fourth and final round of taping with us. So I'm so
Mm,
sad. I'm so happy
yeah.
you've been here with us, and I'm so sad, but you'll be back for
hmm
alumni weeks, I hope.
I hope so. I feel like you're breaking up with me on live TV here, but it'll be a viral moment, and we'll get
Oh, no,
lots of
no,
views for your
no.
show, which is good. So, okay.
Yes. And lots of people will come discover your show, Side Hustle School, and your book, Money Tree, which was one of my favorite books of spring and ongoing because it's really a classic book, we should say.
Thank you.
But it came out this spring, and that was exciting, even though your book tour sort of got hit
hmm
by the coronavirus. But you've
Yep.
had a virtual book tour, and that's been lovely to talk about.
hmm It's been good. Thank you for that. It's been fun. It's been a strange year for everybody, of course. Least of all me, but um, just trying to keep making stuff and doing stuff, and really happy to connect with lots of interesting people out there.
Yeah, so I'm looking down right now because I'm checking
Mm.
if we are live. And we are. It worked.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
we're live.
I get
I
really
think so.
excited because, like I said, we're trying this new streaming platform, which
Mm.
was literally your suggestion. So we're
Mm.
eternally grateful to you. And so the great thing about Restream, and again, I have no affiliation with them except that they were recommended
Mm.
by Chris, is that I believe we should be live on YouTube and several Facebook channels and the Money Friends Pod Twitter. So if you are there, let me open the chat. We're just getting used to this. Let us know if you are watching us, and specifically let us know where you're watching us, because we want to make sure that the YouTube is working, that the Facebook's working, that the Twitter's working, and all that stuff. And then we're going to be talking about we're going to be taping two shows here. The first one is going to be investment advice from Taylor Swift, and the second one is going to be about managing college costs in a pandemic, which is such a fun topic.
Right. For
And
you
Chris,
especially, right? I believe you have some
it's
experience
so
with
fun.
this, right?
Yeah, we are paying, and the really fun thing is that for our college junior, they actually
Mhm.
raised tuition in a pandemic, which is just
Amazing. That's
bananas. I
incredible.
know.
Wow.
It really is incredible.
Mm.
But the
Mhm.
important thing is that all the classes will be online. So that's, no, but seriously, look, the colleges have a hard time too, because they do have to make adjustments, and a lot of their costs are people costs. So those didn't really go down, and we don't want all these professors to lose their jobs. So we'll talk about it. It's not really such a simple situation. I'm trying
Sure.
to be nice.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
very
also,
that's very was like, what's the word there? It's not that, it's even more than diplomatic. It's very kind of you to say about the colleges and universities and all their struggles.
well, we'll see what we really say when we tape the shows. But
Okay.
anyway, and I'm realizing I forgot to write a lot of the lower thirds. So I'm just going to put this one that I have below. And we also, another one. So this is getting used to the platform. And this other one here, this is important. Everybody leave your comments and questions, and then you can be part of the show. And we really need you to be part of the show, because this is Money with Friends, and you guys are our friends, and we love to hear your comments on what we're talking about. So on that note, I'm going to go hit record on our backup there, and then come back to you here, and we're going to tape this show, even though I have the wrong date I see in our files. This is the show that's going to go out on Tuesday, August 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And all right. You ready, Chris?
I'm so ready.
All right. What can we all learn about business from Taylor Swift, who, by the way, is worth a cool $400 million? We'll talk about it with guest co-host, the Money Tree author and host of Side Hustle School podcast, Chris Guillebeau. It is Tuesday, August 25th. Let's talk money with our friends. Welcome to the Money with Friends podcast. I am certified financial planner, Bobbi Rebell, host of the Financial Grown Up podcast, coming to you from my very grown up kitchen in New York City.
Amazing. I'm Chris Guillebeau, author of The Money Tree and some other books. I do a podcast. Big fan of Bobbi Rebell and Money with Friends. Yes, I'm excited to be here once again.
Well, guys, we are happy to have Chris here. This is his second to last show. We're going to be talking about recent headlines and stories. We do that all the time here on Money with Friends. We're going to break the stories down into what matters to you, our friends, and we're also going to leave you with a big idea to make it all your own. And we thank Netgear for sponsoring this episode of Money with Friends. Are you guys ready for the best Wi-Fi ever? Find out what makes Netgear America's #1 choice for Wi-Fi at netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. That is netgear.com/best best Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi has been working doubly hard these days
Yeah.
with everybody working from home. So that's
Right.
definitely something very important. You've been working from home.
I've been working from home just like everybody. Yeah, I've been working from home. I've been trying to figure out what comes next, all that kind of stuff. I feel like, I don't know how you feel. We've talked before about like this is like a little vortex time and such. And I really want to make sure that I use this time well and hopefully like have something to show for it at the end. So we'll see.
Well, I can't wait to hear about what you have going on
Mm.
next. A lot of people have been busy at home. Taylor Swift, by the way, put out a new
Mm.
album that she
Yes.
recorded at home. Although I think she's got a lot of fancy technology and recording
Right.
equipment at home. So she's probably got the better studio than any other studio you could go into anyway. But we're going to talk about Taylor Swift and business lessons we can learn from her after we see which one of our friends is going to lead us into the headline.
Awesome.
And Chris,
I
you're
think
going to
that is
read the
me.
story first. Yep.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. So this story, what can you learn or what you can learn about business from Taylor Swift? This is by Daniel Klein in The Motley Fool. Shout out to The Motley Fool and to T Swift, T Swizzle. All right. The music industry has a reputation for taking advantage of the artists it employs. Performers often sign bad deals and end up not making much money as they generate millions for others. While that's happening, they're often encouraged to spend money they don't actually have, going into debt, and setting up the sad ending of the eventual documentary on their downfall. But Taylor Swift has managed to avoid that fate. Even though she became famous as a teenager, she has made smart decisions and amassed a fortune that's approaching $400 million. Swift has accumulated that wealth partly through her music and partly by building a global brand. The singer and songwriter has worked with major brands including Coca-Cola, Capital One, AT&T, Cody's, CoverGirl, Apple, and others. Now, many of Swift's endorsements come from what she actually likes. Her partnership with Apple, for example, was centered around commercials based on music she loves. And her deal with Coca-Cola has been built around her love of Diet Coke. So all those types of deals connect with consumers as they play as genuine. That helps her build a deeper connection with her fan base rather than being accused of selling out. Now, Taylor has often also smartly maximized her earnings by touring extensively and using dynamic pricing to sell tickets. So I thought this was pretty interesting here. So she's using this model of delivering the maximum return rather than quickly selling out. And so if you went on Ticketmaster in January and you pulled up like a third row seat for Taylor Swift's June 2nd show at Chicago Soldier Field, it would have cost $995, which is a lot of money, like $1,000 for one seat. Okay. But if you looked up the same seat 3 months later, the price would have been $595. And that's because she has adopted this dynamic pricing thing where concert tickets, like airline seats, shift prices constantly in adjusting to market demand. So it's a move intended to squeeze out the secondary ticket market, but it's also left some fans confused as they're asked to pay hundreds of dollars more than face value.
That may not be very fan-friendly, but it maximizes revenue for the artist and the ticket seller instead of letting third-party sellers take a piece of the action. Basically, fans end up paying the same price anyway, so using this model makes Swift the most money possible when she tours. Finally, Swift has been very smart about collaborations. Working with other artists exposes her to their fans and in some cases lends their credibility to hers. Working with Ed Sheeran, maybe the only pop singer bigger than her, can't hurt. The same might be said for Kendrick Lamar or the Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks, two major acts whose fans may not naturally be inclined to check out a T Swift record. So what are the business lessons? Well, the lesson from Swift's endorsements is that you can sell without selling out. Endorsing Coke when you're a big Diet Coke fan is profiting from something she believes in anyway believes in anyway, I should say, and has never tried to hide. How does that apply to you? Think of the same logic when you invest. You might make money buying shares of a company whose mission you don't support. Or you can invest in brands that speak to who you are and what you believe in while still making money. Dynamic pricing is basically Swift teaching you to get what you are worth. Negotiate for a raise you deserve by showing the value you create and be willing to move on if your company won't pay you accordingly. Lastly, Swift has taught us the business value of teamwork. I'm good at many things, but often turn to my colleagues when I'm asked a question outside of my circle of competence. Do that a lot, and you will soon find that your own circle has grown. So there's a lot here, Chris. Where do you want to start? What stands out to you most?
My favorite part is the dynamic pricing thing, because I know this is it's very controversial in the world of concerts and such, and so it's technically not fan friendly, as the article notes. But I think the point is this is happening anyway, and so all this margin is normally captured by these third party sellers and scalpers or middlemen and such. And she has been very smart in capturing it for herself. So I think that to me is probably, like, if you look at like how the numbers break down and such, I imagine that's a huge part of all the value that she's been able to achieve for herself.
I think that's very interesting too. And it's interesting that it's not fan friendly, but it is the best thing for her. And she seems unapologetic about it. And I think that's an interesting thing, because very often we're hesitant to make sure we get the most money but it's not really at the expense of others that are her constituents. It's at the expense of people that are effectively siphoning money off from her.
Exactly.
So it's a delicate balance, because she is making sure to capture more money at someone's expense, but whose? Well, scalpers and people that are just capitalizing on her success. And if she can communicate that effectively to people, then I think they would be supportive of it. The question is, can she really do that? I'm curious to know what you think about the whole idea of endorsing, because you do commercials on your podcast and various other things. I mean, she is endorsing products, and we don't know that it's exclusively products she believes in, but the big deals she's made, like Diet Coke, are things that she believes in. How much do you factor that in when you're deciding to do a partnership with somebody?
Sure. I mean, I think to me, so it's this question of authenticity. It's is it anything that's actually helpful to people? So you were just talking about your sponsor, Netgear. Well, Wi-Fi is very helpful to people. If you give people like a fast router, that's great. It brings value to their life. So there's no conflict of interest. And not only is there not a conflict of interest, it's actually presumably better, for listeners. It's helpful. So I think that's kind of how I approach that. There have been a couple things that have come to me that, just haven't really felt right. And so I think you have to pay attention, to that. And if something doesn't feel right to you, then it's probably, there's a reason why it doesn't feel right to you. You should listen to that, as opposed to saying, well, maybe it's not a big deal, I'll just do it anyway.
Absolutely. And then, it's interesting. So this is a collaboration, and we bring in a bunch of co-hosts every season. This is a really good example of what she's talking about with teamwork and sharing our audiences. And I love that our Money with Friends audience is getting to know you, and your audience is getting to know a little bit about us. That's also, how effective has that kind of collaboration strategy been for your business?
I think it's very effective. I think if I go back to where I started also, so it's not even think about like where we are now and stuff, because you and I both been doing this for a while. But if I think 12 years ago, I started writing a blog and nobody knew me. And so I reached out to other people that I admired and respected. And a lot of them were very kind and, helping me to kind of get my message out. And I've tried to do that now in return. And I think ultimately people learn about new shows or programming or books or whatever because other people talk about them, And so I think those kind of partnerships are not only helpful, but they're essential, really, if you want to grow your audience or your brand or make more money or whatever your objective is.
So what advice would you give to people in different industries, not necessarily media or podcasts, that want to work on teamwork and collaborations? Where can they begin?
Well, I mean, maybe some of the technical parts differ among industries, but ultimately these things are based on relationship, whatever the industry, I think. And so to me, the first step is always to ask yourself, how can I contribute? How can I be of service? Or how can I, if there is somebody that I respect and want to work with, maybe I think about it not just about how they could help me, but is there something I could bring to them as well? And so if you apply this mindset and you kind of develop your soft skills, I think, your soft skills, your people skills, your follow-up ability, all that kind of stuff, I think that can only take you far in whatever your industry you're in. What do you think?
I think that's great advice. I think that it's important to be tuned into being sincere. And I think one of the things that people don't always do that can be very effective is the follow-up, and also checking in with people when you don't necessarily need something from them, when it's either just neutral, developing a genuine friendship and relationship, sometimes over years, when you don't need anything. And then, maybe when something is happening in your life where you could use their assistance or just their advice, not making them feel obligated, just approaching them, letting them know what's going on and seeing if they volunteer. And most people really will. They are sincere and they do want to help you if you've made a genuine connection. And I think nothing really replaces time with that. I think it's really not something where you can approach somebody right away and ask them for something right away. There has to be some kind of history. It depends on the ask, of course. There are people that have approached me cold that I don't necessarily know, for example, that have asked me to endorse their book. And what I'll do in that case is I actually I read the book. I make sure that it's something, and this goes back to the endorsement idea, is make sure that it aligns with your values. There was a case where there was a book where there was a point of view that did not align with my own. And I just politely declined because I felt that they were endorsing a risky investment behavior that just wasn't comfortable. So it's also important when you endorse something to understand the company and take the time to make sure that you understand the company, not just read just the surface amount. So surface thing about them. We call this Money with Friends because we love to include our friends in the show. And we have some of our friends on Instagram. We ask them, this Taylor Swift is known at this point, I believe, as a pretty savvy businesswoman. She's had a lot of things in the press, standing up for herself, standing up for just consumers and for other artists, frankly, against some of the biggest companies, and really making sure that she owns her music going forward. And now that she has that power, we asked our audience what other celebrities they would like to get business advice from. And you have a few of those answers.
Yeah. So let's see. We heard from Awesome Sauce 313, great name, who said Russell Simmons, really respects Russell Simmons, who has built companies and sold them and been around for decades. So that kind of points to that time thing as well, of like the longevity. It's not just, Russell Simmons is like Taylor Swift. He's not a one-hit wonder. He just kind of keeps, doing stuff. And then was it Jenny K1115 who said Chip and Joanna Gaines have done a good job of creating multiple diverse income streams. I don't even know a lot about Chip and Joanna Gaines, but I know who they are because they have kind of like they're in the culture, right? So I think those are a couple of good role models, perhaps.
Yeah, and Chip and Joanna Gaines have also done a lot of very bold things in terms of breaking through from just having their own show to really having their own brand. And that's another step that takes a lot of courage and a lot of risk that they've done. So I think that that's an interesting one to watch. I mean, they have a magazine, they have, I think they were building a restaurant last I checked, and just a lot of different multiple income streams, as they said. So I think that's an interesting example of somebody to be watching. And back to Taylor Swift. I mean, we know her really from music, but it would not surprise me if in the years to come, she got involved in other areas of the business. I mean, what do you think?
I'm sure. I think we'll see her in movies. I think she might, who knows what she'll do. Yeah. She'll probably write a book.
I think she was in that Cats movie. Did
That's
you
right. That didn't go so well, actually. But
I don't think it went well.
Because not every step you take is going to be a success, but her next one will do a lot better, probably.
I'm sure. Yes. She's very talented. And anyone that can make an album like the one she made from home, she's amazing. We're huge Taylor Swift fans, and I think that she will be good at everything she does. I don't know, by the way, I didn't see that movie. So I don't know that Taylor Swift wasn't amazing in her part. We just know that the movie did not do well. It was not I don't think anybody saw
that movie, actually, Bobbi. So that's okay.
That's okay. Taylor's next role is going to be huge. Yay, Taylor Swift. All right, we're going to be back with our takeaways in just a minute, but we're going to talk more about Wi-Fi because it's kind of amazing that we're all so connected. And I think that's one of the reasons that people say work is changing so much, is because the pandemic has forced us to use technology and be connected this way, and also to appreciate how important Wi-Fi is. I mean, working from home is a great thing. Except it's not a great thing when your Wi-Fi is not working. Connections are everything, not just, as we talked about, connecting to people in your industry. Right. It's also about that Wi-Fi connection, because there's nothing worse than being on a call and being like, oh my God, my Wi-Fi is terrible. Yep. Or after a storm or whatever it is. So if your Wi-Fi is struggling to keep up with the streaming, the work, the gaming, the video calling, so much more. And then of course, with all of us, I have a family of 5 here. Everyone's at home. Everyone's doing their thing. You need to make sure you have reliable Wi-Fi. So when you're connected to your world by Wi-Fi, you need to make sure it is the best. Bring your Wi-Fi up to speed with Orbi Wi-Fi 6 from Netgear. Orbi Wi-Fi 6 is the best and latest in Wi-Fi. It covers your entire home with the fastest Wi-Fi for uninterrupted streaming, video calling and working and learning from home on more devices than ever before in any part of the house. It's Wi-Fi perfectly engineered. And by the way, thank goodness for this right before the school year is starting for so many of us. If you are ready for the best Wi-Fi ever, find out what makes Netgear America's #1 choice for Wi-Fi at netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. That's netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. Chris, my friend, what is your takeaway on this story about Taylor Swift's business acumen that you brought to us today?
Well, thank you, Bobbi. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know if the article went into it a ton, but I think the thing that I'm the most impressed with is Taylor's ability to evolve and to grow. And so a lot of this stuff, she has kind of come to over time. It wasn't like she started with all these endorsements and the dynamic pricing, but she keeps changing and evolving. And like the new album that you mentioned is also kind of an evolution and quite different from the previous album. So stylistically, it keeps changing. I think that's really important to keep it fresh because your fans may not always like every stylistic change, but I think she's being true to herself as an artist. And like in the long term, she'll have more value because of that.
I love that. And I love the fact that you're pointing out that she's really looking at her career as a very long-term process and maybe planning out parts of it, but also not being afraid to go off track, not being afraid to, be a little bit controversial with things like the dynamic pricing, which might upset people, but it can also normalize at a certain point and people get used to it. And if you can explain it to your fans and articulate it well, which I think she probably does, it can work to everyone's benefit. So those are really good takeaways. I also like the theme of collaboration that she talked about here. We do it here on Money with Friends. We hope our audience enjoys getting to know you, for example, and checks out your various projects. And we welcome the community to join us here at Money with Friends. I think that's a really important collaboration, even having our audience participate via Instagram or being with us when we tape the show live. I think it's all about collaboration, community, growing the pie rather than slicing up the pie. I think that's a really good way for everyone to succeed. And it sounds a little bit, idealistic and utopian and all that stuff, but also I think that it actually is very practical and does work well. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. But
I agree. I got no sense to add to that. I like those cents.
Where can people find out more about what you're up to now and in the fall? You have one more show with us. Oh my gosh. All right.
Yes, I'm excited about that show. But otherwise I do a podcast every day. It's called Side Hustle School. So you can go to sidehustleschool.com or wherever you get your podcast, just search for that. And I'm on social media under my name, Chris Guillebeau, or Instagram is 193 countries.
Which is because you've been to 193 countries, right?
That's correct.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. And we have such a great appreciation of travel now more than ever before. Right. So kudos to you. All right, everyone, check out Chris in all the places. He will be back tomorrow. We are going to be talking about how to manage big costs like college in a pandemic. You can follow us on Instagram at Money Friends Pod. At Money Friends Pod is also our handle on Twitter. Check out our co-hosts like Chris and our schedule on our website, moneywithfriendspodcast.com. And we will see you here mañana. Bye, everyone. Okay. Great. Quiet audience today. Guys, I see a bunch of you are watching. Oh, yay. My brother is here. That's the first time my brother has actually commented, I think, on the show. So thank you.
Rebel. He's excited about the Taylor Swift.
That is my brother.
What's up, man?
We're having such a quiet audience. Oh my goodness. But my brother's here. Isn't that the best when family is here for you? So good.
It can be the best. You're always so positive, Bobbi. I respect that. So great. I'm like, is it the best? I don't know if I want all my family to watch.
I know it's like 1:00 on a Monday, but you guys are so quiet. I see everyone out there, but everyone's just like, shh, we're going to be really quiet for this show. Okay. So the next show that we're going to do, let me do a caption for it because I forgot to do that in advance also, is going to be about paying for college, in a pandemic, which you also brought to us.
I did some very detailed, Google searching to find these.
You can tell I'm sort of losing it today. I'm just asking the audience, tell us how, because I'm here, as you mentioned, with our college junior who's actually around right now. He may even be in the room, but out of sight. And it's virtual, but they're just charging us all the same. So there you go. There you go. All right. We're going to do the show for Wednesday, August 26th. And Maybe John will make more comments. Someone, I know a bunch of you guys are out there. This is just so quiet, but we're just hanging out. And we have more Instagram. We actually have an Instagram poll for this one too.
Oh.
If anyone participated, you may get a shout out. Let's see what we have. We asked people, I'll preview the question. The question, we're not going to tell you the answer, is should colleges discount for online learning? I wonder what that answer is. And then advice for colleges. And we did have a little bit of advice for colleges. I'm not sure that the answer to should colleges discount for online learning is not going to be obvious.
Right. It's like, would you like free money? You know? Like,
yeah.
Let me think about it.
But maybe some people that work for the colleges will say, no, I don't know. It's you know what, let's just save it for the show. Okay. So This is the show for Wednesday, August 26th. Here we go. How to Pay for College During a Pandemic with guest co-host Chris Guillebeau, Money Tree author and host of the Side Hustle podcast. It is Wednesday, August 26th. Let's talk money with our friends. Welcome to the Money with Friends podcast. I am certified financial planner, Bobbi Rebell, host of the Financial Grown Up podcast, coming to you from my very grown-up kitchen in New York City.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Guillebeau, author of The Money Tree and other books, podcast, Side Hustle School, longtime guest now of Money with Friends. Very happy to be back for my last episode, I think, but I'm still glad to be here.
Oh, no. All right, everybody. This is the Money News Show that includes commentary on recent headlines and stories with thought leaders from across the financial landscape, like best-selling author Chris Guillebeau. We break those stories down into what matters to you, our friends, and we leave you with a takeaway to make it your own. And this episode of Money with Friends is sponsored by Tiller, your financial life in a spreadsheet, automatically updated each day. Go to tillerhq.com/MWF for a free trial and to support the show. And Chris, it's your last day.
Mm-hmm. But I will continue to come back and watch, and I've got my Money with Friends mug to keep me company in the meantime. So, yes.
Yes, you did get that. We paid you with a mug. That is what you get for being a guest on this show. You are prolific, by the way. You literally, I don't know how you do it. You have a new episode every day. You do it all by yourself of Side Hustle School podcast. It's pretty incredible.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of fun. I feel really fortunate that people actually care about it, and it's all about helping people to, create a new source of income during a difficult time, perhaps, but at least without quitting their job and without going into debt. And so I believe in that a lot. So I'm very happy to do it.
And very happy to help people come up with new income to pay for things like college. Let's see which one of our money friends is going to bring us into the headline. All right, Chris, you got this story.
I got it. The headline is Top Personal Finance Experts Offer Tips on Paying for College During a Pandemic. This is from Forbes, written by Brianna McGurran. The only constant is change in the COVID-19 era, and college students and their families are dealing with near daily upheaval as they look to the fall. Colleges are increasingly releasing updates to their instructional plans that shift most, if not all, of students' coursework online. But not all colleges have reduced their costs as a result of these changes. To address some of the most common and most pressing and common questions families are facing right now, Forbes Advisor and SavingForCollege.com co-hosted a webinar, Paying for College During a Pandemic. And this webinar featured an expert panel, lots of guests, was moderated by Brianna McGurran, student loans analyst at Forbes Advisor. So here are several of the takeaways from the event, which you can also watch on Facebook. So number one is speak up. Right now, many people's incomes have taken a drastic hit. And when the federal boost to unemployment expired on July 31, that placed some families in even more dire circumstances. So one of the guests' advice to viewers of the event, if COVID-19 has led to a reduction or loss in income, especially compared to the income listed on the student's free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA form, let the college's financial aid office know. Be vocal, he said. Speak up. A financial aid appeal will take time and will require providing proof of the reduction in income. But schools are prepared to take your appeal under consideration, especially if it means keeping the student enrolled rather than losing them for the year. It's possible, and in fact advisable, to ask for more financial aid if the coronavirus has changed your financial picture.
So let's just stop there. I mean,
Mm,
what are your thoughts on that? I mean, to me, I almost think about when they say rather than lose the student for the full year, I mean,
mm,
it kind of tells me maybe you have more negotiating power than you think because if other
hmm.
students are leaving, maybe you have some leverage if you say, well, I'll stay, but you got to help me more.
I think that's absolutely correct, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing in lots of places. I mean, a lot of students are leaving, or they're going to other institutions. They're to more affordable institutions, or they're taking gap years. Another good friend of mine in New York State, his daughter was going to be a sophomore, I think, and she just decided to kind of not go back this fall, basically, and presumably at some point she will, but they were paying a lot of money, and the whole program was going online, and so. Yes, I think if you're a parent paying for school, if you're a student paying for school, I think you definitely have some leverage.
I mean, it also reminds me of other big expenses. I mean, even in airlines, for example, that's a
Hmm.
whole complicated thing with your health these days and whether you feel personally that it's safe. But in terms of the
Mm,
pricing and stuff, they often will sell seats, let's say in the before at a huge discount just to fill the seats because once that plane takes
hmm.
off, that's just lost
Yep.
revenue. So once the semester begins,
Uh-huh.
which is happening imminently or right now for so many schools, if you don't have that student in
Hmm.
that, even if it's a virtual seat, you don't have that student
Mm.
enrolled, that tuition money is kind of gone forever. So maybe now
Yep.
is a sweet spot to bring that up.
I mean, and also like the costs of the colleges are so much lower as well, I think, and we could talk about this more, but especially in this case with like Zoom University, if that student is not there, they're not actually on campus, the Zoom thing or whatever the platform is still happening, you know. I mean, I think they're going to have to make a lot of changes, colleges. So the advice about speaking up is good advice, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's interesting that you're saying, and I agree with you,
Mhm.
that Zoom, college on Zoom, has
Mhm.
got to cost these colleges
Mhm.
less. I mean, they're not
Mhm.
paying for all the different things that happen on campus, but many colleges are saying, well, wait a second, we still have a lot of the same overhead because we're still paying
Mhm.
professors and all that. And we also now have to create this whole online platform, and we've had to hire all kinds of people. I guess they hire consultants. I don't know what they hire, but and improve all their technology, which to me should have been
Mhm.
upgraded beforehand. But in any
Mhm.
case, they're making the case that they have higher costs. I mean, do you believe them?
Crimea River, I think like I mean everybody's got problems, but who's supposed to pay for that? One of the things that we talked about, I think in our very first episode, or one of those was like, whenever there's progress, like whenever there's advancement, then there are industries that are harmed. Like there's always, and when there's disruption, like coronavirus, economic effects, then there are other, industries that advance. So if we think about like, I think we talked about the car industry, like the automobile industry, when that first came out, like the horse and buggy industry, they were just outraged, right? And like, but nobody's coming along to subsidize them and to say, oh, now things have changed. We have to like, your costs are higher. We need to like, you know, everybody is struggling right now. And I think when I think about people who are struggling, it's like the middle class that are struggling, or, anybody that's been paying like this really high amount for tuition. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for the colleges and universities.
All right, I want to come back to that a little bit, but
Mm,
let's go into the article just a bit more. It talks about
mm,
rethinking debt and says it's
mm,
always a good idea to minimize parents and student college debt. We know that. And to use a student loan calculator to get a clear idea of how much you'll owe per month and so on and so on. Singletary said her family's approach to student loan debt, which was to use her parents' savings and student scholarships and grants to pay for her children's education, no loans at all. That reduces the possibility that a student won't be able to afford their payments after graduating. Well,
mm,
obviously, I think it's really good advice to not assume you have to take out loans for school and to try to find a way to pay for
mm.
it out of pocket, even if it's a tight squeeze at the time, because at the end of the day, loans, it's never a good story to have big loans. So, and that's something I feel like we talk so much about college student loans and so on. We don't.
Mm.
Okay, I think Chris may have frozen for a minute. Hopefully, you will come back out and reconnect. Oh, you're back.
I think I'm back. Yes, I lost you for a second, but I was fascinated in what
Yes.
you were saying
So
right before then.
we were talking about the fact that we make the assumption that everyone has to take out loans, but in
Mm,
fact, sometimes you can use savings. You can have the
mm,
student have a job. The parents maybe can have, you're the king of the side hustles. You can have side
right.
hustles going on and ways to either eliminate taking out loans, certainly private loans. And they talk in the article
Mhm.
about how federal loans can have advantages to private loans if you do have to have
Mhm.
loans. But definitely ideas about maybe not assuming you have to have the most expensive loans, but sometimes take a little more work to put together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see actually Adrian commented about community colleges. I went to community college. I'm a big fan of that system, and it was a lot more affordable. And then, like later, I transferred to a 4-year institution and ended up, getting a degree. But I'm really grateful for that community college experience. And also, I would say, like I paid my way through. Like I actually worked a lot, and I didn't want to have debt. But I also want to be fair and just say, well, okay, this is like more than 20 years ago, and costs have gone up quite a bit. I mean, like a lot of institutions are charging like extreme amounts of tuition, so it's not always possible to do that. But anywhere that you can possibly save is good. So I appreciate the community college suggestion.
And the third tip that they have, whoops, sorry about that. I'm actually playing back. I thought we had that silenced. Anyway, the third thing is stay flexible. Each of the panelists stressed the importance of staying open to change during this period when everyone is working to manage unprecedented circumstances. Jean Chatzky, for example, explains that potentially making changes to a student's college plan, taking a gap year, for instance, or transferring to a community college, see, she's there with you, Chris, is personal. And saying, what's right for one student might not be right for another, but it is wise to think deeply about whether remote learning is going to work for you or your child and to shift focus, at least for the fall semester, if that's best. In other words, to some degree, take money off the table. Is it even going to work? Whatever the cost, is remote learning something that's going to work? We spend so much time. I'm a parent of college kids. We spend time, people go to campuses and visit. Do you want a small campus, a big campus? What kind of tone do you want to the campus? But none of that is coming through on a computer screen. So if you have a student that really needs, for example, small classes with individual attention to learn, it's not clear that Zoom is going to cut it for them, regardless of whether the college discounts it or not. So it may not be a good idea anyway.
Yeah. I think often in life, we kind of look at two options and we forget that there are more than two options, right? We're like, so now we're talking like, is it right to pay a lot of money for college or should we protest it or speak out, like all this kind of stuff? But the other option is to kind of opt out, right? The other option is to say, this is just a difficult time for so many people right now. Maybe there's something, maybe I don't need to go this semester, or maybe there's another solution or some, self-directed program that I can pursue, or maybe there's some work I don't know. I feel like there's always more options than are available that we think of, at first. So for anybody who's like struggling and trying to figure stuff out, I think it's just good to look at all your options.
Absolutely. We did talk to our Instagram community at Money Friends Pod. We asked them if they thought colleges should discount for online learning. And look, there is a debate as we were having about whether it really does cost them less. I cannot imagine how it could not cost them less, but many of these schools are making the argument. What do you think? I'll just give you one guess. I think this is going to be a slam dunk for you. What do you think they said?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious for anybody. If you ask, like, would you like to pay less, tuition or less for anything? Most people would be like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, right?
Yeah. So the vast majority, over 90%, did say that colleges should discount for online learning. And then we asked them if people had any advice for the colleges. And we did get a few examples, a few answers. Do you want to share some of those?
Yeah. So I see one from, I think it's Golden Girl _17. She says, consider passing along the impact of having lower utilities for not having students and staff on campus. Which, that sounds good to me, but I think it's not just the utilities, it's like a lot of other stuff. And then I Am the Real Spoon kind of calls it like it is. I Am the Real Spoon says, prices are already too high, time to rethink higher ed. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like and then we have the margin. It's like at the big thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. I totally agree. And then also we had another comment, don't raise tuition because you're losing money on dorms and meal plans. So that's the thing. So this is where it gets complicated. So I would say as a parent, why would I pay for a dorm and meal plan if we are literally not using it? And to be fair, my son's college did refund us the dorm cost for the end of the spring semester that he was forced to not be in the dorm. So, and to me, that's pretty cut and dry. The reality is, though, the flip side for the university is then they're not getting that revenue that they did count on. And there are a lot of fixed costs in running a dorm that even though they may not have to have people cleaning them and have the heat running fully or whatever it is, they still, it's like a landlord not able to collect rent. So in other words, they're not getting that revenue and they are having that cost. So I think that is fair. But at the end of the day, the students are not getting that value and there has to be some. I mean, a lot of these schools have big endowments, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, endowments of hundreds of millions of dollars in some
Yeah.
cases. And with all
So
the discussion, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No.
I was just thinking with all this discussion, I didn't mean to like preempt. I was like thinking about my takeaway, which I don't mean to, get ahead. But I was thinking with all this discussion about costs, I wonder that if the more important consideration is value. It's not just about what things cost, what their expenses are and such. It's like what are you getting out of this? Your son who's in college, like what is the value? That's what matters more than what it costs and what their expenses are and all that. Like, what is he going to come out of the other side with?
Yeah, I think that's very valuable. And I think a lot of that has to do with, is this one semester where
Right.
if it's right for your child, which again, I love that point by Jean Chatsky, if it's right for your child and they can do classes online for one semester, okay. But if this is going to be much longer than that, and remember, it's already been since last March for most of these kids, you really have to think about it and think about what we are paying for, because people have, I mean, there's no way people would have said, oh, instead of Harvard, I'm just going to go to online learning before this, right? And yet that's what Harvard is. So the question is, what are you really paying these premiums for if you're not getting the full on-campus college experience, a lot of which is just growing up and making friends. And I think that this virtual world has been great, and technology can be a wonderful Band-Aid, but I don't think that it will ultimately replace face-to-face interaction. Right now, working from home, learning from home, because we're all on equal playing fields in that respect, is working. But if you had half the people, for example, translating this to a workplace in the office and a few people at home, that's where it becomes more complicated. So right now we've got a level playing field. Everyone's online, but there is a big value to being together. And I think that that will be even more appreciated when we do get back to that. And I think that's all the people that are saying we're going to have everything be virtual going on are going to be, for me, I think a lot will be virtual, but I think there'll be more appreciation for actually meeting together in person more so than ever before. I don't know. Anyway.
No, I'm good with that.
All right, let's just table that for a minute. We're going to come back with our takeaways. Let's just talk about getting organized, because that is something that I need to be doing. Full disclosure, I haven't even filed my taxes for 2019. So the extension is October 15th. So it's a really good thing to be organized. And one of the best ways to do that is with Tiller. So Tiller gets all of your money organized so you know exactly what is going on. And we're so happy to have Tiller as a sponsor for Money with Friends. It helps you manage your money a lot faster because it organizes everything and automatically updates. It connects to Google Sheets or Excel. It'll have your daily spending, your transactions, your balances. You don't have to compromise, because even if you're not a spreadsheet person, these spreadsheets are fully customizable. So it'll look the way that you want it to look. Tiller makes them even better because it has the automatic daily feeds of your spending, your balances, your transactions. So you know what's going on. You don't have to have data entry and all these different account logins. I don't know about you, but I can't handle that stuff. It's just too much. So you just connect your banks once, and then you can see everything. Set it up once. You don't have to do anything again. Learn more about it. See if it's right for you. You go to tillerhq.com/MWF for more information. You're going to get a free trial, and you will support the show, which of course is priceless, right, Chris?
Absolutely.
Of course. All right. But let's talk about paying for college. And really this applies to so many things. What's your takeaway here?
My takeaway is, it's not just about what the future of online education or education is. I agree. I think if we're able to gather more, then those in-person experiences are going to be more valuable and such. But I also think this has gone on for so long, and it's going to continue for the foreseeable future, that there are going to be these long-term, systematic or foundational changes that come from it. And maybe some of it's good. Maybe some of it's a rebalancing on that tuition, which has only gone up and up and up over the past couple of decades. Like I said, I feel fortunate that I was able to pay for my education, a couple of decades ago, but I don't know if I would be able to if I was in that same position now because of how expensive it is. So hopefully there will be a bit of a rebalancing, and I'm glad that people are, asking these questions, rather than just accepting, right?
No, and I think you bring up such a good point because people are asking questions, and I hope that people will hold colleges and universities more accountable for their finances, and that the tuition should not just be this number that they just declare everybody must pay, that
Mm-hmm.
it will be questioned, that maybe we'll see more of them opening their books and showing us, okay, yes, our costs did go up, and yes, we did do this, and yes, we did this, and this is why we can't lower our costs. Because right now, as a parent, I find it incredibly frustrating that we are clearly getting less value and we are literally paying more money. We had our
Mm-hmm.
tuition, it was previously scheduled, but it was raised. And there's something wrong about that when we're clearly not
Mm-hmm.
getting the same experiences. And our children do not have the same resources. They don't have
Yep.
use of the gym. They don't have use of, in the
Mm-hmm.
same way, the library. They don't have use of
Mm-hmm.
classrooms to go into, and they don't have the same access in person to professors and different personnel associated with the school. It's just not the same. And yet the price is even more. And even though they have to find a way, I guess I'm saying, to get those expenses down. They can certainly say,
Mm-hmm.
well, they went up and shrug their shoulders,
Yep.
but that's not
Right.
really good enough. It wouldn't be good enough in
Mm-hmm.
private enterprise, and it shouldn't be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And our kids deserve better. I also want to talk about the fact that I take comfort in what Jean Chatzky had to say about, knowing your kid. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing if attending and paying for college in a pandemic is even worth the money, and staying flexible. I mean, we all have to be proactive and deliberate in what we decide and not be stuck in what we think other people expect us to do. And also, even don't be afraid to change course. I mean, look what's happening. The
Mm-hmm.
situation is changing all the time. We thought our
Mm-hmm.
college junior would take a gap semester originally. That's what we thought last spring. If it wasn't going to be in person, he is online. And in the end, we decided, really, and we agree with him, we support him, to take his classes online. But he's going to be living off campus with
Mm-hmm.
his college roommates and have some semblance of a junior year of college experience. That would be very different if you were a freshman. So that's kind of our version of a hybrid approach. And that's what we're doing. And everyone should really look at your unique situation financially and the learning style of your child and where they are in their education. Freshman year, very different from junior year in terms of how you relate to your peers and your campus experience. A lot of kids might have been abroad junior year. So everything is just a jumble and a mess, and we got to be prepared. I hate this cliche word, but we have to be prepared to
Mm-hmm.
constantly pivot in this situation. Then you
That's right.
that pivot word. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I don't like that
Oh my
word either,
gosh.
but the concept is, it's like you don't like the word, but it's true. You have to be adaptable and flexible. And I think if you don't adapt and be willing to change, then you're just going to be frustrated, and it's going to be much more difficult than if you're like, okay, well, here's the situation now. So what does that then mean for me now? Because maybe I'm going to make a different decision than I would have with previous data.
Yes. Absolutely. And we've learned a lot about adapting and changing from you. I mean, we were only able, I don't want to say we were only able to, but a lot of the reason we were able to get you on this show so consistently is because you had to adapt to the coronavirus pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
change a lot of your plans in terms of your book tour. And you had this YouTube series going
Mm-hmm.
and lots of different things. Tell us about, how your summer is kind of has shaped up and what you're planning for the fall as much as you can. I know you have a lot of stuff that's sort of not yet. You can't, it's some good stuff coming, but you can't talk about all of it yet. But give us at least something, Chris. Give us something.
Sure. No, sure. And it's not like it's like secret or something. I've tried to try to focus more on like actually creating something as opposed to be like, here's what I'm creating, and talking about it all the time. Like I just want to like be like, here's what I made, So like when the Money Tree came out in the spring, like I didn't actually, have a lot of advance hype about it. It was like when it was out, it's out, So now I'm kind of working on some stuff that hopefully will be out at some point, but I'm still doing the podcast every day, Side Hustle School. I'm still trying to, show up and be helpful however I can, online and otherwise. And hopefully at some point I will be able to do more, bookstore events and other like co-working spaces events and such. But that's not really on my timetable. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens.
So before I let you go, what is your best money advice for your friends?
Oh, my best money advice for my friends. To me, I think it always comes back to, we touched briefly on this thing about how there's, more than one choice, right? And it's not a binary choice of like A, B, and I think it's always good in life to be like, where is the C and D and E? And understanding that you don't have to accept whatever is being presented to you. And if you don't feel satisfied at the available options, rather than, like settling, for the least bad one, this whole expression about like, choose between the lesser of two evils. It's like, well, if you're choosing between the lesser of two evils, that's still evil, right? So like, what isn't there some other way? And so my advice is always like, look for the other way.
Very wise words. Tell us where people can keep in touch with you and keep following you and be part of your community.
Well, thank you. It's been a wonderful experience. The podcast Side Hustle School, wherever you listen to podcasts, or sidehustleschool.com. My name, chrisguillebeau.com. That's my blog. It's called The Art of Nonconformity. And then also Chris Guillebeau on social media, or Instagram is 193 countries.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being part of our show and part of our community.
Thank you. It's been a big honor.
And everyone, of course, you can learn more about Chris and all of our co-hosts on our website, moneywithfriendspodcast.com, and be part of our Instagram and Twitter communities at Money Friends Pod. We'll see you. Joe will be here tomorrow, I believe, with Paula Pant. Bye, everyone. All right. Thanks to our audience here. You guys were great. You have quite a discussion going on the side there. Sorry we couldn't get all of your comments in, but Annette and Adrian, and of course, my brother John, thanks for being part of our show. Right. We'll see you guys next time. Joe, I think, is taping tomorrow. I'm not sure, but go to our website and he will have that. Bye, everyone.